Motion carries. Okay, the second one was Mr. Akers had asked about borrowing for the YMCA. And what is that figure and term and desire?
What I would ask the board to look at is to do a interim financing on the YMCA amount not to exceed $5 million. It would also be a revolving or a line of credit, as we've talked about with the schools. We draw down as the money is needed. We pay interest on that money as we draw it down as far as the interest. And I believe the scenario you gave us, Mr. Rogers, was the I believe we're paying interest for the first 5 years.
Correct.
I have repeatedly said that this project is something that is going to be good for Caroline County. Caroline County, if we stop and look at the fact that we have the highest obesity rate in this county among teens, in the region, with the second highest teen pregnancy rate in this region, and there are just a lot of health issues in Caroline County, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we have no place to go to a fitness center and do and those types of things. It is also one of the main things that the YMCA does is that it provides a after-school program to the families of this county, and I believe that is extremely important. If you recall, the county did a survey back about a year ago, and I believe 34% of the respondents indicated after-school programs was one of the most important things for them to look at. So I believe it is a positive for Caroline County. I am confident that it will be an economic development tool for Caroline County. It improves the lifestyle of our citizens, and I feel very strongly that it is something. Last night, there was a meeting at the Visitor Center among a group of people that had indicated they'd like to see a YMCA. There were people there from, I'm sorry, there was no one there from the Mattaponi District, but from the Reedy Church District, from the Port Royal District, from the Bowling Green District, from the Madison District, and I can tell you that the people that were there were very positive and said move ahead. It has never been my intention, and it is still not my intention, that this project be paid for out of real estate tax dollars. It has never been something that I have indicated that I wanted to see happen. And we talk about the proffers. There's about $322,000 sitting in the proffer fund that should really be dedicated to the YMCA due to the proffer that was signed by Ladysmith Village, Ladysmith Land at that time. There is $108,000 sitting there for nothing but can be used for nothing but the YMCA that have been donations that have come in. So what my thoughts and what we will be working with the YMCA over the next 5 years is that through proper money and through donations and capital campaigns, and I have had assurance from the YMCA executive director here tonight, but I've had assurance from him that they will be there, and we will go out and make a tremendous blitz in not only Caroline County but throughout the region and even into Richmond for a capital campaign. So I feel extremely comfortable and confident that this can happen at no cost to the tax rate. And I can tell you if we set a tax rate of 72 cents, 68 cents, or 64 cents, or 53 cents, there is no money in that tax rate to pay for any interest for the YMCA. There's nothing built into that tax rate, regardless of what that tax rate is set, that will pay any debt retirement for this YMCA. The county will own the building, because of the proffers that you're going to use to pay for it, and the YMCA has agreed, that board has agreed, that they would come in and operate a YMCA facility for Caroline County. So, that being said, I would ask for this board to approve, just as we did for school, to go for an RFP as to the financing up to, not to exceed, $5 million. And again, we have a line of credit where we draw down as we would use the money. And Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make that into a motion. That I would make a motion that we go to we ask financial consultants to put RFP out for the YMC financing with a lot of credit.
Okay.
Not
Could I ask you to clarify your motion? The actual location of the original YMCA was to be in Ladysmith Village.
well, no.
Well, just outside Ladysmith
Yes,
Village.
it's never been. It is
Across
not
the
in-
street.
Right, it is not in Ladysmith Village. It is outside. The land has been donated to the county. They have, and yes, my motion would have that it be located on the land that has been donated by Newland and Communities.
Okay. Not at some land the county or school board owns
Right.
near the high school.
That's correct.
So
It's
just where it
Newland.
proffers schools.
And the reason for that, Mr. Chairman, is the fact that certainly the Y is no different than any other entity that wants to be successful. And they certainly have a model, and they have a plan as to, they need so many homes, so many rooftops within a certain geographical area to draw from. And the high school is certainly, I don't know how many rooftops within a 2-mile radius or 3-mile radius, but there aren't very many rooftops within that radius. Whereas at this particular location, I mean, you heard Lake Landau come in tonight and talk about the number of people they have, 4,100 or 4,000 people in that community. I'm not sure that includes children, or whether that's adults. Ladysmith Village has a good population. Lake Caroline has a good population. Belmont has a good population within 6 miles. Caroline Pines has a good population within a certain distance. Bowling Green is only 9 miles away from this facility. So, or this location, 10, 12 miles from this location. So, it is where it can be successful. And I think that is important for us in Caroline County to make this successful. You know, I talked to...
Let me see if I can get a second for your motion.
Okay.
Is there a second for the motion?
I second.
Okay. All right. Discussion on the motion.
I'm just curious why the county's going to borrow the money if the YMCA is going to benefit from the building. And I see $158,000 in the proffer money for the YMCA, and everything else in the proffer fund is obligated, and I don't see anything that's de-obligated anything here. And I guess the other question is, we still owe, I don't know if it's Newland Industries or who it is, but $750,000 for the Ladysmith Library. There's nothing in writing that says that they're not going to ask for that money anytime soon.
That, you know, that's
And who,
what is in writing, because
and who pays the interest when there's no money in the proffer fund 3 or 4 or 5 years from now? Because if you draw down this $5 million, the payments are going to be rather hefty. And I think there should be a public hearing at a minimum on this before we go down this path.
Well, I think that we don't have public hearings on other issues, and we haven't had public hearings on other issues when we borrowed money for fire stations.
Well, this isn't a public safety issue. This is a recreational issue, and I think it deserves everybody's attention, and everybody should have input into the spending of this kind of funds at this point in time.
It is a health issue. It is a health issue, and I can assure you, Mr. Stevens,
Okay.
you've done everything you could to try to draw everybody's attention to it.
Okay, let me do just comments on the motion, if we can. Cecilia, were you finished with your comments on the motion? Mr. Popowitz, comments on the motion?
Yes, sir. We're not voting on the money tonight. We are voting on an RFP to see what that money's going to cost us. I don't think there's any harm in that. Let's at least look and see what it's going to cost us. And at that time, I think that we'll need to get a little more detail as to how that's going to be paid back, and et cetera, et cetera. But I don't see any harm right now in at least looking at what it's going to cost us.
Mr. Underwood?
Mr. Chairman, I had 3 meetings with constituents regarding this issue, YMCA, one in Frog Level, where the constituents on the southernmost part of the county were concerned about the distance to the Y and ensuring that there were outreach programs that they could take advantage of. At a second meeting, Caroline Pines was 90% in support of the Y, and then I had a third meeting at the Carmel Church Tourism Center, and about an 85% approval, saying yes for the Y. They'd like to have that service available to them. So I think again, the constituents for me are the people that I have to answer to, and that's where I take my direction from. So they were very positive about having a Y in the county and felt it could bring a quality of life as well as usage for school and other programs, but they were very positive about the YMCA.
Okay, and my comment is, you know, on that same line, when the original developer came and said he promised the YMCA he would do whatever it took to get the YMCA, I said fine. My opinion, and I've shared this with Mr. Akers, if the county has to do anything to make the Y happen, then the developer needs to consider putting the Y in the middle of the county, which is why I asked you about the school system, about the location. So I mean, I haven't always been right, but I've always tried to be consistent. So I'm going to stick to that consistent path of, if the Y is at or across the street from Ladysmith Village, the developer takes care of it all. If the Y moves somewhere else to the middle of the county, so maybe there's more access to Reedy Church, Port Royal, or whatever, then I would be willing to have the county look at it. So that was just my discussion on the motion, which I get to have too. So that was it. There's no other discussion. All those in favor of pursuing, and we are not under any circumstances committing the board to do the YMCA, we would be just looking at what the funding would cost to put the YMCA at its originally proposed location. So, all those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Excuse me,
could I
a second.
clarify when the timing that you would expect Mr. Rogers and the staff to come back with this information?
Is tomorrow too soon? What do you think is a realistic time frame?
I'd like to give the banks a couple of weeks. If we could get something out here at the end of the week, we could. It's what now? The 15th is Friday. I mean, your next meeting is May
3rd.
3rd. We could probably have something back in time to discuss that evening. If that's too quick, we can push, but that's up to you.
May we will meet on the 3rd and the 24th.
Okay.
So
either one.
24th okay to everybody? Does that seem like it's, I'd like to kind of get through the budget. We should be done with the budget. Okay, the 24th?
Okay.
And they are, I guess for we're not finished voting on whether we do it or not.
Understand.
If we vote for it, or if the majority of the board votes for it, you can do it as a combined
I was going to,
or separate.
I have some follow-up questions, so why don't you?
All right, well, let us finish first. Okay. All those in favor of an RFP looking at revolving funds for Y at its originally proposed location, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay, Mr. Underwood, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Popowitz?
Aye.
Mr. Seeley?
Nay.
Mr. Akers?
Aye.
And I vote nay because I said I was going to be consistent. So that motion passes 3-2. Now you have follow-up questions.
Okay, I think, and you were heading down the path I was going to head, so maybe a thought here is to give us a couple of options, and we'll ask to put them together, but also maybe apart,
Right.
because they could be different rates, because you're looking at an essential, they're going to look at the school as an essential item, and they're going to look at the YMCA as a non-essential item. So together, they're going to be stronger. Apart, you may get different interest rates, different business points, things like that.
Right. And,
So-
and we are, as I stated, and everybody else stated for the most part, we're not making a commitment to the YMCA. We're just trying to figure out what that dollar figure would cost. We are making a commitment to the schools.
Understand?
So,
I think it needs to be together so we can make sure that we get the best.
well, that's
for-
the option. I mean, do one together,
Yeah.
do one separately.
Do you want, I guess I'm asking, do you want it all together and nothing else?
I would
And-
think we want them
Well-
all together, because that way we're gonna get the best deal, if you will, for the county.
But you want them, see, one we've made a commitment to and one we haven't.
Well, the thing of it is, it makes no difference if you drop one off, you're still gonna get the best situation
You're still going to get the school.
for the school.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I may not get I'm gonna get a,
You may-
okay.
It sounds like you have,
the
it sounds like you have a
number's
unanimous,
$8.
if I could read the tea leaves, you've got a unanimous vote on the schools.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And that's going to be the strongest piece anyway. So I think Mr. Akers is probably correct.
But if I,
We put them together, we can always drop the Y out, and the rate's not going to be that much, I don't think it's going to be any different.
all right, well, that's the thing, because if I say I'm gonna borrow $8 million, I might get a better rate than if I say I'm gonna borrow $3 million.
Right.
But am I gonna get the same rate, the same $8 million rate if I drop the Y out? That's my question.
And I don't know the answer to that. I can poll, get some preliminary before I send it out. And if I feel like it's going to be a difference, I could always ask for an option A, option B.
I think that's,
We need another vote as to, another motion, another vote as
That's
to whether we include it all together and get one
Could-
vote.
And could I ask
In
it,
case I will make a
no,
motion.
I mean, we think we can let Mr. Rogers go ahead and handle that.
So we just go ahead.
He's gonna put it
I'll
together
put it as one big package. Can I include the ambulance as well?
and then kind of separate it. I thought we bought this ambulance already, would you?
I don't think we funded it. I think you've bought it, but you haven't funded it, and I wanted to make sure that's in there, that's why. I think that takes care of
Aren't
everything,
the
because
two the same?
the sheriff's vehicles are done.
Right.
What was the other there was,
So what do you need?
the school buses
School
are
buses.
funded, right, or no?
The school buses, the lease is done.
So the school buses are taken care of, the sheriff's vehicles are taken care of, the ambulance was not. So I
Okay.
want to make sure we
Put
put
the
it all together.
ambulance in with the school. You come back and tell us, you can come back and tell us on the 3rd if we
Okay,
are better with 1 or 2, maybe what some of the people said,
got it,
and then we'll discuss it in depth on the 24th,
good idea. I can do that.
okay? We are not close to done, but thank you, sir.
In fact, if you want, I could probably find out before Thursday.
That would be a good idea. Because
And then-
Thursday we'll be setting the tax rate.
That way we can get the RFP out and have it on the street, because I think some time out on the street would be good to answer some questions, things like that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, sir. Mr. Parton, would you like to make a brief county administrator's report, or would you just like to tell us to look in our packet?
Either way, Mr. Chairman, just, you have the capital project status report. Be happy to answer any questions on that. And the only calendar item I would call your attention to is the spring school, fire and rescue spring school this Saturday and Sunday. And that's
At
all I have.
Carolina.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Parton. Closing board comments, Mr. Underwood.
Mr. Chairman, I know we've talked about a number of issues today, particularly tax rate and funding and for the schools and other capital projects. And while it's a tough period, probably one of the only things that I'm concerned is that when we look at the the school budget is that we haven't talked about the money that they receive for stimulus, money that I think is included in the operating costs. And I think we have to look at that to make sure that we're being as lean, we can move pretty close to being lean, to make sure, again, that we're just accountable for every dollar.
I think that's probably something we can make sure we do on Thursday, because that's all we're gonna talk about is budget numbers and one other issue that I'm gonna bring up.
Right.
Mr.
Now,
Pop-
just want to add that
Sorry.
there's no question that bus drivers and teachers need pay raises, and but I want them to think about the impact on the county. That the county employees have taken a large hit over the last year. So I think in terms of being equitable and equalized, I think we need to look at the total picture.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Popowitz?
Have none.
Mr. Seeley?
I have none.
Mr. Akers? Okay, I have one which is actually just a follow-up to our public hearing. We need to give Mr. Fincham some direction to advertise, because he's got to create a map and advertise with all of the actual district boundaries for redistricting. And I think we heard a lot of 7 districts. We didn't hear any 6. That was my vote was for 6, split Madison in half. We got 6. Everybody else stays the same. I thought that was easy, but we didn't hear any of that. So we heard a lot of 7s. How does the board want to move ahead? I think we said we were going to wait for public comment, and I think the public comment was overwhelming for 7, aside from the 4 people that were on the committee who said 5. Try not to hit me in the face, on purpose or accident. So,
Mr. Chairman, I think the committee invested an awful lot of time and effort into looking at the districts and coming to us with a recommendation, and I think they did an outstanding job, all the committee members. And I would think that we would give the recommendation a little more weight as to looking at the districts when we talk about what it is that they came back to us with in terms of the number of districts.
Mr. Popowitz?
I mirror Mr. Underwood's comments, actually. I think that they did do a tremendous job. They worked hard at this. They came back with a recommendation for a reason, and we need to look at that. I don't think we need to discount the citizen comments either. My druthers would be to look at 5 districts and 7 districts for the next public hearing, just to
5, you're saying 5 or 7?
5 and 7.
5 and 7.
Yeah, and get a consensus from the board after we hear more comment on those 2.
Mr. Seeley?
I'm with Mr. Underwood, and I think there was a tremendous amount of work in talking to the committee members, and some of the points made tonight about how voting strength is still preserved with 5, even for Lake Landor. I think something that I hadn't even thought about. So I'm in favor of the 5 districts.
Mr. Akers?
I really haven't given much thought to that. We talked about it early on.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that, but again, 7 districts is quite loud, but our area is not. I consider what they're saying, 5, 7, 8, some of that wishes.
I'm still the only one with 6, so I guess I'm outvoted. So we're looking at 5 or 7. Is that doable? Can you do them both?
If the board says look at 5 and 7, then we will come up with 2 ordinances for you to consider.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And you can do that by May 3rd? That's our public
Actually,
hearing?
I have to do it by Friday.
Oh, okay. Tweaks coming before we go to the Justice Department. We tweak,
I think as long as we don't make substantial changes, we have to look at a couple of boundaries anyway, because there's some questions about those lines, so we've got a couple of lines to look at anyway.
yeah, we did just from my recollection, in 2001, we did the ordinance, and then we had a tweak or two after we did that. But before we sent it to the Justice Department, we adjusted a boundary here and there, and that was it.
I guess the question is, if we go with second, you would not consider this a tweak if we change the lines for in Lake Carolina, say in Madison, we make some changes over toward the western side of the county to pick up some population over Howard County line.
To give the comment, sir.
Mr. Akers, we can go ahead and start on the ordinance.
Yeah, let's do the ordinance.
If we want to discuss this some more Thursday night, I mean, we can do that. I mean, you know, we'll start on the 5-district option, and we can discuss
So if you can,
possible changes.
you can do the ordinance for 5 or 7. See, 6, you already got the line. You already got the line? Okay, that's not working. All right, 5 or 7, do that now. We'll touch it up a little Thursday, and then Friday you can put the ad in the paper.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. All right. We do have closed meeting. Thanks. Because Portia's here. All right, yeah, I'll let you make that motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to report the meeting closed meeting pursuant to section 2.2-371(a)(1) of the Code of Virginia, discuss personnel matters related to the use of the interim county.
That's all? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll be in closed meeting in about 5 minutes.